Hello, everyone. It is me. I'm a nerd politics, also known as Colson Kaufman, and today we're speaking on the new poll changes, or at least what I think is gonna really just wipe out the Democratic Party here. Um, if you have seen my more latest video, politically speaking, you know that I've speaking now on the whole thing with Donald Trump, the assassination attempt, and it just being a very historical moment. It will be put in history books. I know it will be for sure. It was really crazy. It was, I mean, to, I mean, it's really mind boggling because it's been, there has been attempts on former presidents like Obama and Bush, but they weren't like live casted like this one. The last time there was a live casted assassination attempt was on Ronald Reagan in 1981, over 40 years ago. So, this is not something that obviously the United States, this is not what a democracy should see. This is not what this is not what people in the United States living their lives should be seeing every day. It was a very close call event. If we're talking in terms of how close to death was Trump, he was probably within, I want to say 4 to 5 or not even centimeters, millimeters from death, possible death or, catastrophic event. Um, but the whole thing really has turned out really good for Trump, as, he's come back very strong. He actually so recently, basically within the timeline you're seeing this video, which is tomorrow, then you've probably seen that he's been at the Republican National Convention. He has addressed that he is going to pick J.D. Vance for vice president of the United States under Donald Trump, being that he's guaranteed to win this election. And I prove it even here once more. Really, the whole thing is just so crazy. If you do want to see my video based off of the Donald Trump response and the assassination attempt, you could go check that video out in the links in the description down below. But what I'm here today and talking about is, we got to address that, JD Vance, he is going to be, put as vice president for Donald Trump now, which from the research I've done, JD Vance, being that if Trump wins, which he most likely will, JD Vance would become the second youngest vice president in United States history. First was John Campbell Breckinridge in the 1800s, sometime in the 1800s, who was 36 when he was put as vice president. So obviously this is very big because, it opens up to more younger communities and the more of the youth, because, it's getting to a point we don't need these old ass people in office. And we know that. So having these younger people as put as vice president or put as senator, putting more youthful people to understand the generations that are with to come or right now living, it's a lot more better of an idea. And it also stabilizes a lot of the east over here. The blue wall is essentially what it was called, as I'll call it, the red wall. It's very strong, as you know, that JD Vance is the Ohio senator, and he actually beat Tim Ryan, who was a large Democratic, up and coming, trying to run against for senator in Ohio. And JD Vance still won, and obviously proves that he's very educated in what he does. He's got the law degree from Yale Law School, of course, as I've addressed in my vice president video the day before the convention. And JD Vance, I think, will make it a very more stronger outcome to say that Ohio will strongly be a Republican state. So let me just put out Donald Trump's safe states here. He, for the most part, just crushes the West, Midwest. He is pretty strong in that field, and I believe that he couldn't lose it no matter what happens. Whatever happens, there's no way. It's impossible. So, based on that, that puts him at 125 here. And Biden has California as a safe state, Connecticut, Massachusetts, I'd say Vermont, um, Rhode Island here, and Maryland as a safe state, and also the first district of Maine. But really, that's all of his safe states. I should also put Hawaii as more likely. Yeah, I would say likely to, but let's be fair here. Hawaii's kind of always been has been a part of a Democratic state. It doesn't lean one way, or if it does, it leans hard one way and stays that way forever. So, we're looking at a 125.94 as the moment. At the moment, I'm not going to talk really about RFK Jr. There's not much that really has, made me feel like I need to talk about him in any kind of way, but you never know, really. But RFK, face it, that even if he runs in a debate in September or anything, his numbers will not really go substantially that far up, coming the allegations that I have addressed actually on an up and coming video. Or I could make my own separate video behind it, but there is allegations of him with women. Doesn't surprise me coming from the Kennedys, but they're not good allegations either. And also, his numbers are just not big enough to win a election. He is big enough to be a up and coming third party candidate, but it's not like a Ross Perot kind of moment. But I will say that Trump also gains Iowa as a safe state here. We kind of proved that during the primaries. I'd say Texas way more stronger than ever before, and I'd say the same thing with Florida, because for a long time, and since Bill Clinton, anyways, Florida has always been a lean, a leaning, like it's a battle state. It's a battle state. It's always been a battleground state. Meaning that whoever's gonna win it, they got to win it big or they got to win it barely. And we know that in the 2000 election, Al Gore lost Florida by a couple thousand voters. Like it was a very close thing, and Florida has, it's been Democratic a lot, obviously through Barack Obama's term, and Hillary Clinton was expected to win Florida in 2016 and didn't. But Donald Trump has since 2016 gained very much more respect in Florida. So therefore, I think that Florida is a guaranteed Republican state here. And of course, I'd have to say Ohio is guaranteed to be a more Republican state. Before J.D. Vance was announced to be the vice president, Donald Trump was doing very well in Ohio, but he was doing not so great in more, areas that were, Democratic. But because of J.D. Vance helping out with those communities and him actually making a stronger comeback towards those Democratic, I was going to say states, but they're not states, delegates or, cities and such, that Donald Trump makes obviously, I think the better choice here would have been Ben Carson or Vivek Ramaswamy, but J.D. Vance was also my third pick. I think that there's nothing wrong with the guy, and I think, he really does show, similarly to Trump, being that, no former political experience and everything. He was, an author. He derived from being someone that wrote a book and was famous in a movie to being a politician. Similarly, Donald Trump was a businessman who said he wanted nothing to do with the White House, but it just went to crap, and the economy went to crap, and the United States went to crap. So he was like, "All right, guess I'm jumping on here." So they kind of share those equal traits. Um, which I really think strengthens this nation, and it really strengthens the ability that Trump wins Ohio here. Um, I'd also say that it's more likely. No, not that. That's the wrong one. It's more likely here that Trump wins the second district of Maine. So 219 to 94, obviously, it's very strong here. We get into more likely states. I think that Washington and Oregon are here to be more likely to vote for Joe Biden. These states right here don't really say yes to Republicans a lot and haven't for quite some time. So, I'd say still kind of more likely here. Um, I'd also say likely in Illinois, and I'd say I'm trying to see because it's like the United States is coming to a race right now that's like, oh boy. And I'd say even Delaware because Biden was born in Pennsylvania, raised in Delaware, but even Delaware voters are not 100% for Joe here. So I'd say that. And DC, I should put as an automatic Democratic vote here. I don't know what I was thinking. That goes for here's Trump's kind of likely states here. I'd say, likely in Georgia, likely in North Carolina, and he's supposed to go to Wisconsin after this convention. And, he said, I don't care. I'm not going to stop. He said on Twitter, anyways, I'm not going to let a shooter just, make this whole thing go to waste. So I'd say Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania here are more likely to vote for Donald Trump, similarly to how they did in 2016. So I think, it's safe to say that blue wall states are no longer blue. So obviously that already puts them at 295 to 139 here. So I'm going to go at, well, I think Colorado is still going to be Democratic, but I think, as a lot of Coloradan youngful people, I know I sound like a boomer saying that, coming up here, I think that they're realizing that, yeah, our state kind of sucks and we need better than this. So I think a lot of Colorado voters are switching to Donald Trump, but are not there to a point where they can flip the state in any means. Which, when I was making these videos all the way back so far when, I don't remember, I always thought Colorado was going to be a hard 100% Joe Biden state. But I guess I'm wrong because the numbers don't really say anything. I just use them because it's better than just pulling whatever I can out of where. So still not doing great for Joe here. And geez, I mean, it's actually come to a point where some people, I'm not saying that it is likely, but I'm saying that in the news it has been addressed that New York is a battleground state, which is words which have not been said since the Reagan era. It's been a long time since you probably heard those words. I've never even said those words before this video. And the stats, just by themselves, going off of what the stats say, is that in 2020, Joe Biden won New York by 23 points. Okay, yawn, whatever. It's a Democratic state. Oh, who could care? But as of what the stats say right now, New York is going with Joe Biden at 7.3%. Yikes, that's a huge drop. um, so I don't think Trump's going to flip his home state by any means, but it's still like a yikes. That's a problem for the Joe Biden administration and the Democratic Party. I think, these other ones, I think that New Hampshire, being that it is, kind of one of these odd or even kind of states, I do think that New Hampshire will more than like possibly win for Donald Trump here. So I'm just gonna put that out there. 299. Oh boy. I'd say Arizona is also one of those states, and same with Nevada. I don't have a real complete reason to say that, but I've addressed that, Trump is leading in these states and has been ever since this election has been going on in the background. So that's my evidence right there. um, so that really just leaves four states here: New Jersey, Virginia, Minnesota, and New Mexico. And I mean, who cares at this point? Joe Biden doesn't have enough to even get to 200 right now, and also, which is to get Maine itself. But let's go over Joe Biden because I do think that he will, in a tilt election here, win New Jersey, just based off of the reaction from New York. And ever since this assassination attempt, my ad is that from the assassination attempt, I have a screenshot I'll put up right on screen here. From the day it happened to the day after, the national polls shows Trump at 42%, which has jumped about zero point 0.3 since the assassination attempt. So, if anything, it just worsens the Biden campaign here. Also, his age. God, Biden. Listening to one-on-one interviews with Joe Biden just hurts my brain. So 191, 316. It's not going to be a landslide election. For me, a landslide election would have to be 400 or more, but it's obviously not going to be a close call by any means either. So, I'm also going to put as, likely here. I think by and large, Nebraska is a Republican state, just how I see it. But, we have to really argue on Minnesota, Virginia, and New Mexico. And the reason is that New Mexico has a lot of problems with the border issue, obviously. Not as much as Texas, but does have some problems too. Minnesota, being that Minneapolis is huge for Democratic voters, it really makes it hard. But I'm still going with my gut feeling that Trump might be able to win Minnesota, which hasn't been a Republican state since 1972. But maybe I'm wrong because, of course, that's just how I think and what the numbers tell from the 538 polls. And I've even covered that Virginia is a battleground state and like close call. It's a tie by what 270 and what 538 polls have to say is that Virginia is a tie. So that's kind of shocking. And I think really by and large here, or not really even by and large, but close call, New Mexico is probably going to be a Democratic state here, kind of has been for a long time here. And I think that Maine might actually be a Republican state, but it might be a close call here. So very, very unknown to say at the moment. But this is what I'm looking at as of right now, post the assassination attempt and JD Vance being put as vice president, running vice president. So, of course, 342, 196. Joe Biden doesn't win here. I have a couple more videos coming out with if they switch the candidates for any reason, then what would they perform in and such. I have those coming out later. It's just taking me time to get to all of it. But if you do enjoy this video, please make sure to like and subscribe. Channel's been doing great. You guys obviously like the content, and I really enjoy the comments, some of them at least. And of course, if you want to leave your opinions in the comment section down below, please do so. You're free to an opinion. But until then, of course, that is all I have for you guys, and I will see you all in the next political video. Peace out, guys.